What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Relationship Theory. It is so good to be back and live, and I am your co-host, Tom Bilyeu. I am here with the lovely and talented and amazing, beautiful person that I got to spend a lot of quality time with recently, Lisa Bilyeu.
What's up, peeps?
And before we get into it, can we just say, for those of you who don't know, her new podcast, Sheroic, with Cassie Ho, is now live. And on the day that they launched, they rocketed right to #1 in health. So, yay! Mad kudos to you, my love. Very impressive. Very great. The feedback you've been getting is smash bang amazing. So
yeah, it's been quite a ride, and obviously super excited about the release. We've been working so long. You've been talking about it for like 2 months when we first started it, and so now kind of being out there and getting the feedback has been amazing. But to be honest, the biggest thing was like the way it all happened. So I was super stressed that we were releasing it when we were away. I mean, that was like so stressful for me. Yeah. But there was something about being away with you in like this beautiful country, like it was just amazing and spectacular. And then we went and celebrated in the evening, just me and you. And I don't think we would have done that if we were here. I think we would have just gone in hustle work mode. Like I would have worked all day. I probably wouldn't have said 2 words to you. And then, you know, I would have just gone to bed because I was shattered. Right. But because we were away, even though I was working a lot, we kind of then just took that evening to go and...
Truth.
And it's like when you're working, you're looking at this beautiful ocean. You've got yachts around you.
It was cool.
Yeah, ocean.
No question. Wow, you like booby-trapped yourself over there.
I know. I
have. All right, what you got for us?
All
Let's start strong, homie.
Yeah, let's start. All right, so first question via email.
Yes, please.
Hey, Lisa and Tom. Thank you for giving us friendly advice and being so raw and real weekly. I'm currently working on my vows. Wow. Tying the knot next weekend. Oh, we may have missed it.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I just realised. Sorry. But if we haven't, then hopefully this will help you. And I'm curious about what you both might suggest as must-haves when articulating this commitment. Of course, vows are very personal, so if you could talk about your must-haves or what you would have liked to express when you were married, that would be great. Thank you again. Can't wait to hear the new podcast, Lisa. Thank you. Jane Pelk from Nova Scotia, Canada.
Nice. Nova Scotia in the house.
Yeah. So... there's a question for you.
Indeed. You want to kick it off?
Well, so I guess we should say we didn't write our own vows. We got married in a
the Greeks don't play that game. Like, let me tell you right here and right now, I felt like I was getting married in like the 1500s. It was crazy. They were speaking ancient Greek, so it wasn't even like... So you got to imagine the guys with the big beards and the huge robes and the tall hats. It was... I mean, for you, it'd be less weird. But for me, it was like, where am I? They don't do rehearsal, so I'd never seen any of it. I had no idea where I was supposed to be, when I was standing, none of that. And they don't, like, all the traditional cues for me growing up, like the Here Comes the Bride song, and they start playing it, and everybody stands. None of that existed. And they were waving, like, smoke and, like, chanting. It was actually amazing, and precisely because it was so different, there was, like, a real... weightiness to it. Like it felt like a ritual in a way that like your sort of everyday Sunday church like wouldn't have for me, not if we had, you know, gotten married like what I grew up with being used to, which is very informal. It's in a church, but it like has that sort of colloquial vibe. Like a lot of times whoever's officiating is like cracking jokes and stuff. They didn't fucking play. Like, there was none of that. It was super ritualistic, which I loved and was so meaningful to me. So that was amazing.
And if anyone's seen my big fat Greek wedding, that basically was our life.
100%.
You got christened.
But do they show the wedding in that? I don't remember.
They do, but people spit on her as she walks down the aisle. People didn't spit on me. I would have been horrified.
They spit on me, though, but I don't think that was part of the ceremony.
Oh, was it?
But yeah. So, yeah, that was incredibly ritualistic, which was really, really important to me. And so, like, this really reminds me how long I've been thinking about this stuff. So when I read The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell, I don't think we were even engaged yet. So we were dating.
I think we were. Wasn't it
June?
No, yeah.
So it was early in our relationship. How about that? And read it, and he talks about how one of the reasons that he believes that marriage as an institution is sort of failing is because there's no like threshold that you cross that really makes you a different person from one day to the next. There's no coming of age ritual. There's no like heavy transformational ritual between your, the day before you're married and the day after. And so I didn't want to fall prey to that. And I wanted to find a way to supercharge our wedding. And so that was unexpected, just how ritualistic it all felt to me, but then also the tattoo. Now, while we didn't do our own vows because they don't play.
If you could go back, would you and they said, okay, you can keep the ritualistic stuff, but you could write your own vows versus not, would you?
Yeah, probably.
You would have?
Yeah, if they were like, you have the option, then I would, for sure. You?
I don't know, because I find things like that a little uncomfortable for me.
Just like the speaking?
No, I think it's because what I feel inside is so intimate that kind of saying it out loud in a way that everyone will get, I don't know, it becomes a little in that environment, I've got that one moment that I have to say everything I'm feeling, that pressure of...
You'd rather be silent?
I mean, here's also the truth. You're so good at writing that I would want to make sure that I go first. Right? I would want to say my vows first. And then it would be if I didn't hit it, it's like I'm performing. Whereas my wedding isn't really, it's not about a performance. It's about being with my husband and making those sacred vows that I will hold on to. So if I'm then nervous about having to do my, and that's why, thank God I didn't have to do a speech. If I had to do a speech, I would have been so in my own head about the speech that I don't think the day would have felt like it was. I wouldn't be able to focus on you're becoming my husband. I don't know, it just would have messed with me.
Interesting, because I did have to do a speech, and it didn't have that effect on me. Which is interesting. So anyway, back to the question. So I wanted to get this tattoo, which really ended up, it is what my vows would have been. So it's not hard for me to figure out what I would have written for my vows. So the tattoo, which I thought of as a ritualistic scarification, which was very important to me to go through that, for it to be something painful, for it to, I have no interest in tattoos. I had never intended to get a tattoo. So that for me wasn't a sort of low barrier to entry, putting me in context of being absolutely, at that time, I'm not anymore, but at that time I was legitimately phobic of needles. And it was the fact that it was needles. It was like facing one of my really great fears. So that it was a needle, that it was painful, that it was permanent, that I had no intention ever of getting one for decorative, cool purposes. And I mean, to show how true that is, she has in her feminine, wily ways, really tried to get me to get more tattoos.
I love tattoos.
And I'm just that, it's not my shtick, right? Yeah. So
I've tried probably every trick that a woman could try, to be honest.
Basically, yeah, fair enough. And even that. But to me, that would also diminish
But in all fairness, it's not I just want you to get a dragon on your back. It was...
just a big mural of your face. I know, it's all good.
On your back.
That says fuck off? Is that comma bitches? Is that was the thing? No, I'm totally teasing. So yeah, that was I didn't want other tattoos. So it really forced me to stop and think about what that whole process was for me, what it meant for me, what was I committing to, all of that. And I designed the tattoo, and so a lot of thought went into that, and it was just really interesting from the fact that it's a circle, which to mirror the wedding ring and meant to be a symbol of infinity, and there's no end, no beginning. And there were 4 points on the tattoo, which were my things, which were love, passion, commitment, and respect. And those are still to me just the absolute foundation of any relationship. And while I'm sure people would surprise me with insights if they were to pick, you couldn't pick those 4, what would you pick? And I'd be blown away. And if I remember correctly, originally it was 8.
Yeah, and
the tattoo artist was dude, I refuse to do that because it will, you won't be able to read it in 5 years.
Because it would be so small.
Exactly. And it forced me, what are the 4 bedrock things? I wish I still had the original design because I'd be very curious. Love, passion, commitment, and respect.
Right. And you had them in Greek. What was your feeling behind that?
That was a nod to you. At the time, I mean, maybe spoke a couple words, but hadn't really clicked over into that, like, I'm going to learn this for my wife. But that made it so you, and that I loved. And, you know, thinking about it, like having something that is just like unabashedly about that person, that's what really made it meaningful.
And if you had to, with those 4 words, give a one-liner, I'm going to limit you to one line.
Right.
So imagine it's your vows, you've got like a limited time, you use those 4 words, one-liners, what would you do? Or say, I should say.
Well, like, what are they? To define them, you mean?
Yeah, like towards me.
Yeah, so, well, this is good. This is good on you. Love is the sort of divine spark. I think that's the easiest way. There's something ineffable about it. It taps into a part of the brain that's never touched by anything else. Not even like, even a child, I would imagine, is very different. A parent is very different. There's the love for somebody where it's also a physical union is just different. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I remember my mom saying to me, you'll know you're in love when you feel like there's no way anyone else in the world has ever felt this for another person. And in fact, Mom, mad respect, that may be one of the like most insightful things anyone has ever said to me, because I remember when I first realized I was in love with you, I thought, there's no way the world wouldn't function. Like, people can't feel like this about people. It's so intense and all-consuming. It's not possible. Like, nobody on Wall Street is feeling like this. Like, the president wouldn't be able to do his thing. Like, there's no way. And so that's when I knew, this is love. And that, like, early stage feeling is so amazing and so interesting and fascinating. And the way that love evolves over time is incredible and amazing. And it remains the divine spark. So even though for me, and I don't believe in God, so it's not a religious thing, to me, divine is the ineffable. There's clearly something about this universe, the human experience, all of it, that I don't understand. Like, hey, let's get really weird for a second. I've been researching multi-dimensions, dimensions higher than the 4 dimensions that we understand. And it can actually be explained. Like, I thought, no one's ever going to be able to explain these other dimensions. They can. It's crazy. Drop it into YouTube. So anyway, like that, there's clearly like things that I don't understand. And to me, the way that love is and that it evolves and all that is the closest thing I can experience to a non-religious sense of divinity. It's just unbelievable. And I love the way that it changes over time. Passion, I literally meant that romantic, fiery, sexual passion. Like, and I never wanted to lose that. And I knew that and love are so like brain chemistry dependent. Like, they will come and they will go, right? So think about a time when you have food poisoning, you're doubled over in pain. Sex is like the last thing from your mind. Now, there are 1,000 shades of that, from stress, anxiety, overwhelm, all of it, depression, sadness. There's times where you're just not going to feel sexual. So you cannot just wait for it to happen. Like, you've really got to keep touch, intimacy, sexuality, like something that you force to be at the forefront of your relationship. Especially because, look, you know me, like, I'm super realistic. If you take a prairie vole, I can't remember if it's prairie voles or, anyway, it's a rodent that they did this test on, and you put them in a cage with a female, they'll have sex once and stop. But if you put a new female in, it'll have sex again right away. Put a new female in a 3rd time. I can't remember how many times, but it keeps going and going. But if you had left the same female in, it wouldn't. Now, humans fall sort of in the middle of monogamy, and you can just base it on the way that the genitalia is. You can tell that we sort of fall in the middle. So like, monogamy is not impossible for us, but it doesn't necessarily come as our default position. So going into a marriage and saying, okay, I'm going to be monogamous with this person, like that. How do I cope with that? There has to be mechanisms, because it's not necessarily going to be my default position from an impulse perspective. It certainly won't be that way all the time. So like, how do I make sure that we keep, you said one sentence, this has turned into a fucking novel. I was going to say, it
really has. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
I apologize.
I lost.
Now just imagine me saying this in front of the church. Everybody, let me explain this. These are my vows. It's 8 hours broken into chapters. Get comfortable.
And people say that the Greek ceremonies are long. Man, right. You would have made
Yeah, that would be terrible. Okay, so I'll give you the other two in one sentence. So that was passion. I could literally keep going.
And there's one thing that you said there. So I'd read somewhere, I can't remember where I read it, but about feeling connected with somebody, like you need like one-on-one contact, like actual intimacy, like the skin touch for more than 30 seconds.
I think it's different for men and women, but yeah.
But I think it was for women, it's like 30 seconds. Okay. So when I heard that and read it, literally I kept coming up to Tom and I kept hugging you. Like you're brushing your teeth and I would just like, okay, now's the time. So I would just hold on and I would actually count, just making sure that like I was doing it right, the obsessiveness in me. Right. So I would hold on to you, and then as I was counting, I almost forgot to count. You know, it's like when you're trying to count sheep. I stopped counting because I really did start to just sink into you and then start like smelling you. And even though literally you're brushing your teeth and you're like moving around and I still really did get it. And so I actually haven't done it in like a week or two, but like every day, especially when I was feeling stressed or especially when I was feeling overwhelmed or not connected with you because you had so much business stuff going on, I had things going on, we didn't really see each other. And so that really works. Like it really did. I need to remind myself to do that again. But yeah, it's just like the passion and the chemicals and all that.
Nice. All right, last two, short, in front of the church. Respect, I think, goes without saying. Like you have to, if you don't respect the person, don't marry them. Yeah. And then make sure that you maintain that respect. And I'll call that equality. Like that would be another word for that. And then, which is very important to me, and I'm very tempted to go on a very long tirade about that. And then commitment is you're going to turn into a bag of wrinkles. There's going to be times where you piss me off. And there's going to be times where you break my heart a little. And through all of that, you need to know that I'm going to be a rock, that I'm going to do whatever mending has to be done. That since it takes two to tango, it's not enough. Like if you've been the one to hurt me, it's not enough that you apologize. I have to be open to accepting that and building the bridge and moving forward. Yeah,
I think so many couples do that where they'll just apologize just to like stop the argument or stop that bad situation, or they feel bad so they just like, you know, want to make that person feel better. I don't think that actually resolves the issue if you're not sincerely, you know, you actually mean it. But also I find that, oh God, I lost my train of thought.
It's a good time to practice.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of people do that. They do the apology just to like move on.
The forgetting thing. So like a lot of people, they'll say, okay, like no problem, let's move on, but they don't forget. And it becomes like that one straw on the back, right? And so people, if you don't...
The dust settles.
Yeah, if you don't actually deal with the issue and you just say sorry and you kind of just leave it at that, or like, oh, okay, let's just forget it. Like, and I've tried to do that in the past and it doesn't work. Like just saying, oh, because you still remember, because you haven't resolved the issue. So you take, you know, a marriage that you want to go on for a lifetime, that weight starts like, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. So we always make sure that we address those issues as they come up and that we never apologize unless we really mean it, or we just discuss it. But it's never like, oh, don't worry about it, let's just forget it. Like we never say that because it never resolves.
Truth. Nice.
All right, so we got some questions. Thank you guys for submitting.
And you'll notice she never had to say what her vows would be. It's very smooth of her.
But I was the one that said that I wouldn't say my own vows. So.
Yeah, you're going to stick to that
Well,
forever?
Plus also they've got questions coming in, so I want to make sure that we get to them. The team has criticised us for only getting through one or two
I think it's fair criticism.
All right, Mike Burkus. Thank you, Mike Burkus.
What's up, Mike?
Do you have plans to renew your vows every so often as a reminder of the ritual and intention behind it all? Yeah, I'm just going to go first because
I think you should.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Renewing vows to me, it feels very modern, like as a reminder of like, see, I do love you. And because obviously the ritualistic thing of getting married and it being for life, like I really meant that. And so for me, I don't need to renew my vows to know how you feel about me. To me, that's an everyday act, right? It's kind of like the couple who may have like, they've not been getting along and it's been like 9 months of like turbulence. And then they're like, okay, let's go away because that will solve all problems, right? Just changing your location doesn't solve your problem. Right. And so the vows, even what you just said, those 4 things, we make sure we embody those every single day. Because if you
Well, I do. You don't have vows.
Yeah, that's true. Right, but like it just, I think that it loses at least for me, and this is only for me, it loses the meaning of that one day that we got married and we made that commitment.
That's so you. That is so you. I should have been able to predict that answer because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think a lot of people do it to reignite their love. And I get it. Like, if that is what they need
Better
to
than
kind
nothing,
of...
right?
Right, exactly.
Do
like,
something.
if that's what you need to then set a fire under your arse and then go, okay, we're starting from scratch. This is our opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah.
Like, I totally respect that. It's just not how I think. I think that for me, it is very important that we work on it every single day and stay true to those vows we made when we became different people, when I became Mrs. Bilyeu instead of Miss Charalambus. I hold very tight to, I'm very...
It's funny that some people are hearing your maiden name for the first time.
Charalambus.
What the hell?
Yeah. So, what about you?
Oh, 100% I would do it.
You would renew?
Absolutely. It sounds so beautiful and so romantic to do a big to-do and all that, but I'm so lazy, it's never going to happen. So
then why wouldn't you just do a big anniversary party? What's the difference?
I don't know. I totally buy into like the renewing of vows and like recontextualizing it for where you're at in your life. And like, so take for instance, if you've got the 4 sort of bedrock beliefs about what a relationship is, and that's never going to change. But then you've got the other 4 that you loved and were about to get tattooed, but you removed them because they're not quite bedrock. Like maybe those 4, maybe those 4 change over time. You know what I mean? Like I don't even remember what they were. So, but I really think, and look, I'm realistic enough to know that maybe I wouldn't come up with the exact words that I chose again. But those 4 concepts to me they are central to my life. I mean, they're so central to our relationship. It's not like I have to look at my tattoo and remember what it says. I remember. Those are just like, yes, those are the 4 things that are sort of the 4 truths that any relationship should sit on top of. But I'm like a total romantic.
Well,
so for me,
now that I'm not giving you what you want, I'd do it for you.
No. Here's the thing.
It just wouldn't mean anything to me.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I can just see your like blank face. I'm like your shirt says I'm here with him. You know, it's like I don't care. None of this means anything.
But I did it for you.
You
Isn't
would.
That meaningful?
It is absolutely, and it is very
it.
you. But the truth of like when you were saying it, I thought it's so romantic. I love the idea, but when you said you didn't want to, I thought, thank God we don't ever have to plan this or actually do it. So I love the notion, but not enough to actually follow through with it.
Yeah. All right, I got another really good question.
All right,
let's have a couple of shout outs actually. We got Thomas Henrik from Cincinnati in the house. Thank you.
I've seen him in the comments before.
Ali Quizem Nakvi from London.
Whoa. That's Ali. That's like our boy. So what's up, Ali? How you doing?
From London meetup.
Yes, he was there. Well, he's from way before that. He was doing the Grind Ain't Cute Instagram. Like he's OG.
Cool.
He's
All
OG.
right, nice.
And hopefully, like Cindy's not here today, but hopefully he's hooked up with her. I think he's going to run our London meetups.
Wow, that would be cool.
Yeah, so mad love to Ollie.
Lal Martin from Bakersfield.
Bakersfield in the house, Jared. Agent Smith, one of your people's in the...
Really, it was
Agent
Jared
Smith
undercover.
Says, what's up, right? And what'd you say his name is? Suk Singh?
Sukhbir Singh, Thind from New York City.
Wow, NYC.
And
what's up?
Deborah Goncalves Alkimin from Edmonton, Canada.
You got some for real names.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a good brain test.
It is.
Because I'm sure I butchered all of those, and I'm sorry,
guess
people.
It's 100% correct.
But yeah. Correct that I failed.
About the time you're like, I think we can assume.
Yeah.
And look,
the good
I'm
news
just as
is
bad,
people used to butcher my last name, so
that they did.
yeah.
That they did.
All right, so another question. This is actually from Ali. Really like this question. What's your view on saying don't go to sleep until you've made up from an argument? Doesn't it make sense to talk about things when you're both emotionally calm and rested rather than trying to resolve things when you're both probably tired?
I have a strong answer.
Yeah.
You want to
so Well, we will go to bed if we're mad with each other, because I totally agree with you, Ali. Like, you need to approach the situation with your emotions low, you've got your defenses down, but during the argument, your defenses come up, you're on edge, and so a lot of times me and you find that doesn't work. More me, like, I'll be like, I need time, I need to walk away from this, and I need to think about it, and then I can come back. But the one rule we do have is we always, no matter how bad the argument is, and we haven't had a bad argument in like 10 years or something, but no matter how bad the argument actually is, we always kiss each other goodnight on the lips, even if it's like...
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, when we're pissed, it's so like...
But we make sure, but we still do it. We made this, like, I don't even remember when we made that commitment to each other, but we have said to each other, no matter what, when we go to bed, we kiss each other on the lips, and we always say, I love you to each other. And again, sometimes it's like, love you. But we make sure we do it. I don't know, it forces you to remind yourself of the other person is a real human being. You really do love them.
You forget that about me sometimes. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So like that's, but I totally agree with Ali. I don't think that you force a discussion if you're not ready.
I don't even know where that started. Like, are people worried the other person's going to die in the middle of the night or something?
To be honest, growing up, that's what I heard. Like, but if they don't wake up, it's like, man, well, if you don't wake up at our age, like, we've done
You're
something
way
wrong.
worse than leaving the house. Like, if you said, we never leave the house until, like, we finish. Because people are going to die, like, driving or walking.
Right, yeah.
The chances of them dying in their sleep are infinitely lower.
And we've never, like, not slept in the same bed with each other. For that reason.
I was going to say, that's a lie.
If you're sick, you go into the next room. But I'm saying for argument purposes,
I don't even understand that.
But people do. I mean, I think it's maybe having that physical distance allows them to bring down.
I mean, I guess no judgment, right? But it just seems like, this is how you get yourself into trouble.
Plus, don't you think if you woke...
You did, like, fix that so you stop battering
I know, sorry. But don't you think, though, that if you didn't sleep with each other, so let's say, for instance, we got into an argument and we slept in separate beds, which we've never done, but I know people do that. For me, I think when I woke up, it would just remind me, you were pissed with him, and that's why you're not in the same bed.
Great point.
Whereas I think that if you were lying next to me, I don't know, like that morning, like, I so love smelling your neck.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I'm telling you, they're pheromones, just the proximity, like hearing their breathing. Like, I bet there's a certain degree of synchronicity you get into sleeping next to somebody. Like, the way that women's periods, like, sync up when they're together in the same house. Just my gut instinct is the proximity effect is probably important. I am totally making that up. I want to make that abundantly clear. But that's just, like, my gut instinct.
Yeah, I think that I feel like that too.
Yeah, but that's a great point about waking up and being like, wait, why aren't they? Oh, that's right, I'm pissed. Like, actually reminding yourself that you're
and then when
pissed
you
off.
remind yourself you're pissed, you kind of then go, why was I pissed? Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right, but you had to dig for it, which you wouldn't have otherwise.
Right, because you wake up, I lean over, if you're lying next to me, I smell you, you're always very, like, kind of... low-key, let's say, in the morning. So the fact that you're kind of just, your emotions aren't heightened, and it just allows us to kind of relax, and then we'll be like, okay, like, do you want to talk?
100%. That would be you, but yeah.
That would be me, yeah. Someone's asked, LK Elliot wants to know, where is your tattoo? It's driving me crazy.
It is on my right shoulder.
Yeah, and you don't want to show people it?
It's interesting because you, like, would parade me around. It would be on the homepage of our website if I would let you. And I'm weirdly private about it. I'm not sure why. It's always felt like it's for me. Like, I didn't do it for show. So... That's true. I hear that. It's on my right shoulder. Like, and look, if I'm at a pool or something, it's out. I'm not, like... I don't try to cover it. But I never... show people. Yeah. Unless, if somebody was like, oh my God, please, can I see it? I wouldn't be like, no. But, like, right now, I'm not going to show it. All
right, so Matt Wyman asks, Lisa has said she needs to walk away. How does Tom know to accept that is her MO? That is, I get angry and can't talk, but my wife likes to talk it through. Or better, how does one get better at not letting anger disengage them?
Those are two very different questions. And I would say until you get to the point where you actually don't experience the anger for very long, it is a way better strategy to do whatever you need to dissipate that neurochemistry. So Lisa and I do this thing called giving the keys to the kingdom. So in an emotionally sober moment, you would go to your wife and say, I totally understand that you want to stay engaged and all that, but the keys to the kingdom for my behavior to get me back to neutral is to give me time to walk away, like give me that space, and then I'll come back. Because if you're trying to deal with the situation in an emotionally charged place where your brain chemistry isn't right, like that is suboptimal conditions. Like it just doesn't make sense. So way better if your goal is actually to resolve the issue,
right,
then way better to wait until everyone's neurochemistry is rebalanced. If your goal isn't that, then you need to assess like what's really going on. I'm gonna guess the reason that your wife wants to stay engaged is she doesn't like the way she's feeling, and she believes that the surest path to that is resolution in the argument. That is certainly why, because I didn't want to disengage, and when we were much younger, we would like get caught over that because I would want to keep going because I didn't like the way I was feeling, and I wanted to resolve it because I believed if I could convince you how wrong you were and you could finally see and understand the truth, that everything would be okay. And of course, like that is exactly what was pissing you off, is you were like, my point of view is also valid. And so us like sort of going at it at a time where neither of us can see chemically, neither of us can see the other person's point of view. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So, yeah. So when you're emotionally sober, give the keys to the kingdom to each other. And because like, even if her real goal is resolution, her emotions will dissipate over time, period. Like, think of it this way. Even when someone's parent dies, over a long enough timeline, that feeling dissipates.
Yeah.
So the good news is, with most arguments, that's going to dissipate relatively quickly. Usually a matter of hours, worst case, a day, 2 days, like, but you're going to be able to come back and talk about it.
And
so
I
way
think
better.
I mean, exactly that, but it's how you approach that in the beginning, right? So speaking to your wife and saying, look, I need to walk away to calm down so that I can have the talk that you want me to have.
Right.
So let's work as a team. Let's get together. Let's figure out how we handle these situations. Know that I love you, that when I'm walking away, it's not me shutting down, because I worry that might also be an interpretation she may have, right? Is that if a guy is like, I don't want to talk about this, that they're completely shut down.
Yeah.
But if you reassure her that, hey, I'm not shutting down, I just need to walk away, give me time, I will let you know when I'm ready to have the talk you want to have, and then we can really come together and resolve the issue. And then basing it on, like, we have the same goal. Right? The same goal is to resolve this issue or this problem. But the one thing you need to make sure is you then do have that discussion.
Right.
Because if you just walk away, say, hey, you know, give me time, and then you just go, I hope she forgets. I hope we can just brush this under the rug. Then you're not actually giving her what she needs, and now she doesn't trust that when you're going to walk away, you're actually going to come back and do it.
Right.
Like, give her what she needs as well.
Yep.
So, all right. Next question. Jessica Zia said, did you live together before marriage? If so, how long? How long did it take you to know you wanted to be married?
Okay, well, so that's all math. We did live together. We lived together sort of, if you were to accumulate all the time that we lived together, because we were in different countries for part of it, we probably lived together, for like 8 months?
Yeah.
It's about right. So lived together for 8 months, which is about half of our relationship up to that point. So we spent half living together, half living apart. And then a good portion, probably 80% of the time that we were in a relationship but apart, we were also apart from a country perspective.
Right.
So there's very little time where you were here in Los Angeles but not living with me, which is a whole nother conversation. And then how long did it take me to know? We were together for a year and probably, I had proposed after 8 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I proposed after 8 months, which is crazy. Like, it violates every rule. Not every rule, because you shouldn't marry your high school sweetheart, and I at least didn't do that.
I was going to say, that I was not.
But it violated so many of my relationship rules. But for me, the decision wasn't. Actually, explain it this way. Once I decided to propose, like I really lamented over that decision. So I thought a lot about it. I can't remember. I didn't write out a list, but I had a list in my head of like all the things about you that I worried about. Do you remember the number one thing I was worried about?
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Oh,
I'm so curious to see.
Oh, me being sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She used to get sick all the time. It was crazy town. And so I was like, can I really be a caretaker like forever? This is nuts.
That's due to my microbiome, but that's a whole other story.
Whole nother thing. And so I was like, I'm not sure. Like that was the one. And then I was like, you know what? I'm so into this woman. Like I can deal with it.
Yeah.
And then luckily, with the exception of the sort of Black Death year, it didn't come to fruition that I've been a full-time caretaker. But that was like, I went through that process. I made sure that I really wanted to do it. And then once I proposed, I should say, once I decided I was going to propose, I've been all in from that day.
Yeah, but we had a very strange way of dating and getting together. And to be honest, I think the one thing we never really had, but we managed to navigate through it, but I think can be difficult for people, is when we lived together, it was never like, most of the time we were with my mum, so it's like you're not in your own space, just you two
Right.
trying to figure things out. My mum, bless her, she would do our grocery shopping, so we never had the discussion of whose responsibility that was.
Right.
Like there was all these things I think you really do learn about somebody when you live with them intimately day in and day out, and then you figure out also roles, responsibilities. You kind of overcome all of those when you get to live together. But I think if you don't live together, there are things that will surprise you. And not that necessarily for me it would have been a deal breaker, but one thing can lead to another, and you end up not being compatible.
So you're saying you should live together?
I think for sure you
100%.
should live together.
Like anything else is madness.
Yeah.
And I'll just plant a stake in the ground. If you don't live together and you don't have sex before you get married, that is so crazy.
Yeah, I think
out of your mind.
It comes to compatibility.
A and B, like it comes to what are all the like things you haven't thought of?
Right.
Like, yeah.
But then also, like, even if we're not compatible on something, we've been in that situation, and then you kind of almost, you test each other, like, how do they handle when you have a conflict, right? So it's like, if I say to you, look, it's really important to me, you leave your socks all over the floor, and you still leave your socks on the floor, it tells me something about you. That I've been trying to be honest, upfront, like, this is something that's important to me, and then you don't reciprocate. It may just be socks on the freaking floor. Right. But it tells me something about your character and our relationship and how we overcome problems. And I think that that's a big thing as well. And then, you already said sex. I think that's majorly important. Physical attraction, all of that.
Word.
All right. Got another question from...
You ready for
Kevin
a really random thing right before we get to that?
Always.
So,
I love random things.
Did you know that women will predict whether a man is going to be good in bed or not based on how he walks?
Like consciously predicts?
I don't know if I can say consciously, but
I've
this
ever
was,
looked at the
so
way
we
a
just
guy
had,
walks.
homie, please.
But not specifically to sex.
I can't say that. All I'll say is that, so we just did an episode with the amazing Vanessa Van Edwards for Impact Theory, coming out probably in 3 or 4 weeks. Amazing research scientist, does all this stuff. And she said that, there's been multiple studies done on how, and God, I think, and now admittedly we didn't get into this in the episode, this is just something I came across in my research, we never had a chance to talk about it, and I would love to get her on relationship theory, it'd be so amazing, I think they can accurately predict whether a man will be good in bed based on how he walks.
But I think it's not just walking. Like how a guy sits is a big thing for me,
I'm just giving you the studies here.
Yeah, that's
the way he sits, what does that mean?
I don't know, like confidence, right? So it's...
You think confidence is
because then it just...
in the way you sit?
Yeah, 100%.
Like you talking like power posing?
Like the way your legs are, the way your arms are. Like if you're kind of like a little dweeby and you're like, and look, I'm just my interpretation.
Right.
If a guy's sitting there kind of like this, hunched over,
body language, sure.
It means he's not confident. So now you take that same man in bed. Do you think he's going to be Mr. like rambunctious and...
Wow. Rambunctious is what we look for, is it? Let me write that down.
But you know what I mean? It just means that he probably won't be confident in bed. So, and look, So
you call bullshit on the study?
No, not at all.
They don't know what they're doing.
Not at all. I'm saying it's not, I don't think it's isolated to just walking. I think it's body language in general. It's the way you present yourself. I think it's with clothing. I think it's with the way you talk.
Yeah, sure. I think they were trying to boil it down to like how quickly and from what. Like what's the least thing that you could get it from? Huh. But I'll be sure to let her know that you don't buy into the research.
She was an amazing guest. Amazing. All right, so the next question by Kevin M. Smith. Do you think that once a couple begins to get serious, that it is a good idea to discuss how they behave when they are upset or angry, what they need in order to resolve conflict, and ground rules for conflict is a good idea? ? And if ground rules is a good idea. Go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
100%. Got to have rules of engagement. I think the more areas that you have specific, discussed, and agreed upon rules of engagement, the better off you're going to be. That is so critical. And that's one of the things, like if somebody said, okay, beyond sort of the obvious things like compatibility and all that you guys have, like what's the secret to your longevity? I would say getting specific about what over communication means. So communication has for sure been the key. But the thing about our communication, like getting down into the weeds, is defining terms, creating rules of engagement, giving the keys to the kingdom. So keys to the kingdom, we already discussed, which is like telling the other person when you're emotionally sober, how to deal with you when you're not emotionally sober, and like what's going to be the thing that calms you down, gets you back to neutral. Defining terms, what does important mean? What does I promise mean? Like, what are those things? So that when the other person says it, like, and they think they're being super direct and you feel like, well, you never said. So those words need to be defined. You need to have sort of magic words, if you will. And then rules of engagement. Like, so how do we deal with X, Y, Z? And I think there's so many areas of your life that need that, certainly like conflict resolution, because somebody earlier had asked, like, I like to disengage, she wants to stay engaged, like how do we deal with that? And if you've agreed about it ahead of time, then it becomes much easier, because the other person knows, like you were saying, this isn't me like shutting down because I don't care, this is me, I need to get back to neutral so that this can be productive.
Right. And speaking of like love languages, right, what's going to rub someone the wrong way? Because let me tell you, if you know certain words, it's going to rub the other person the wrong way. Don't use them in an argument, unless people actually want to do the dick.
Yeah, but then you're like just escalating things.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
but that's what I mean, like understanding that person and the language that they use, so that if you are in that situation, like just don't use it.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, and something that I think we've done a good job of, even when we're pissed. We don't jab at the other person.
Yeah. I think one time you said to me, you're being bitchy, and I got so upset. And you're like, but I didn't call you a bitch, because I was like, you call me a bitch. And you're like, I didn't call you a bitch, I said you were being bitchy. And I was like, but even that, like, it really upset me.
Right.
And if you think, okay, rephrase the word, I think you're being mean. Okay, cool, I can live. But for whatever reason, for me, that word, I just don't like it. It made me feel like you were calling me a bitch, even though you weren't.
Right.
But I just owned up to that. And I was like, this word I don't like. And so you've obviously never said it again. And then it actually was interesting, though, to remind myself of, like, why don't I like being called a bitch? Because being a bitch is not nice. But you know what I mean? Like, it kind of reminded me, like, okay.
What a shocking interpretation.
But you know what I mean? It then reminds you, like, don't do that because you don't want to be perceived like that, because you don't like that word.
Right.
I don't know, it kind of has like a knock-on effect.
It's interesting. And I mean, I guess this is maybe like a power play thing, but if you were like, you're being a dick, it wouldn't have that. It's not a trigger for me.
Woman thing.
Yeah. I'm going to guess the answer is yes.
Yeah, I want to know if other female out there feel the
I will
same.
tell you right now, yes, they do very much. And hashtag, again, I did not say she was a bitch, just for the record, because I can already feel this one spiraling out of control.
No, you didn't. Or even, and in fact, so speaking of, again, languages, the see you next Tuesday word.
Yeah.
I literally, it's the one word I'll never say. Like, and you've asked me.
Have you never said it?
I might have.
You would to like
I
get a
think I said it
sparkle in your
once.
eye to me?
Yeah, but I kind of did it like.
And you did?
I know.
Yeah.
I did. But here's the thing though, because you know that word, if you feel so strongly against a woman who has done something that is like that,
Right.
you'll specifically use it to me and you'll emphasize it so that I know exactly how you feel.
Sure.
All right, let's get to some questions. What has been, this is from Matt Wyman again, what has been the single best discipline you have used to strengthen your relationship, both individually and together?
The single best discipline?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to interpret that, but so tactics maybe. What are the tactics that we use? Communication is the obvious sense, but let's try to give people something a little bit more than that. Proximity, like that's a big deal. Making sure that we spend time together, that's been really, really important. I don't think there's any substitute for proximity just to make it really clinical. I think you have to like be together, and that's one of the secrets to our success has been, you know, when you talk about growing together, that's a big one. So we started out, I worked all day, you didn't, and that was us very much going in separate directions. And then when we started working together, that was one thing, but like I was the boss and you were the employee, so like there wasn't necessarily the balance in that. And then now truly being equals in the company, like that's been awesome. That's been a really great way for us to put in the time, be together, have the same, share a vision, share just like the dream of exactly what we're trying to build. Like there's so much togetherness and all of that. That's been great. And I know that is certainly not something that everybody can accommodate with their lives, but that's been really, really beneficial. So if we didn't have that, like my recommendation to couples would be to have something that's goal oriented. So let's say being dance partners or something like that. In fact, this is really interesting. If you and I were going to be dance partners, I'd want to try to win something. And then like in that, because you're going to, it's like the same thing, the same reason. It's interesting that you're not sure why I would want that.
Because you're so not competitive, even when we
not
play
at all.
games.
So watch me in this. This is why. Suffering is useful because it forces you to come up with tactics. If we were trying to win something, in fact, what are you talking about? Video games. Like we're so competitive when we're playing.
True, actually. But I guess when we play games with the family, like you do like to win, but you're not like my family, my brother and your sister are so competitive.
No question.
Where they'll like start scratching out people's eyes just so they can win.
But
you're like, I don't care.
I would like to say, even with that, I've won the Christmas Cup twice.
The funny thing is you absolutely have, but there's not that like...
It's not my highest value. That's the reason. Like, so when I go into something, as long as I'm having fun, as long as I'm enjoying the family, like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But below that, I love winning. Like that's really fun. It's a great way to test your skills and like, but with the video games, like I am playing to win every time. And so there's this one part of the game that you never play that's like really hard. And you're playing against just like the best people that play the game. And I always put that I go to the casual. So there's two places you can play, like competitive and casual. You're playing the same people. Right. So it's just a question of, do your teammates expect you to be amazing, or are they going to tolerate that you're just there to have fun? Okay. Now, I'm there to win. Let's make no mistake about it. But I always go to casual because my skill set is just not, like people would freak out if they got me on their team in a competitive space. They'd not be pleased. But I'm the only one that's like there to win. Like when you talk to the other people, they're like, oh, I can't believe like people take this so seriously and stuff. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, why would you hate on that? Like, yes, okay, we got our asses handed to us. Yes, the people that we're playing against have clearly practiced and they're very good. But isn't that the idea? Like if you're going to show up, if you're going to spend an hour, be the best you can be in that hour. Like nothing else makes sense to me. Okay. So how
does that turn to dancing?
So you'll have to come up with the mechanisms to deal with that. Like what happens when you lose? Right. Do you like, and the other person turns to you like, and has intensity and is like, hey, we need to figure this out. Like we need to try to do this. Like you're going to have to learn how to deal with that. Right? For instance, if there was a certain game, I would get so pissed off. So we play as a fire team. It's me, Lisa, and my sister Kim. So we'd be in a fire team. I would get so pissed off, like if we lost.
Oh, yeah.
And so finally, but to me, like it isn't anger, like anger about injustice or like fighting with somebody. It's just that I can't believe I did that. I'm so mad. But I'm having a blast. Like I'm having such a good time. Like to have been on the competitive stage and tried and lost. Like, so I'm externalizing like, you know, frustration and anger, but like I'm having such a good time. And you guys were like, we can't have fun when you do that.
Well, no, because you can't. So yeah, this is actually really interesting because we work together. Obviously, we've been married for a while, but playing video games kind of introduced a different dynamic between us. And so when we're playing, and if we're losing, you're like, Lisa, what the hell are you doing? Like, you need to stay right behind me. I told you to go, you know, to stay behind and shoot when I shoot. And you yelling and just being that intense, like, I'm just like, if you're not having fun, then don't play. But don't, like, force me to do it. And so I then start getting, like, I don't enjoy it.
Right.
Because I want to feel like, ha, look, you just messed up. And even though I want to win, it's, like, just a different way of approaching it.
And so in that, going back to the dancing, I've had to learn, even though that, and you're definitely misrepresenting what I do. I speak very intensely, and I will give you that. But I'm not like screaming, "What are you doing?" But I've had to realize when I externalize like that, even though internally I'm still having a great time, I'm just really intense. That doesn't play for you and Kim. So I've had to like change my language and adapt, which makes me think like there's a difference between how you feel and want to communicate and be communicated to, and how the other person can actually hear you. So things like that give you the tools that you need in all the other aspects of your life.
Right.
So I think the like heightened, not stress, but like the elevated intensity and seriousness of a competition is actually interesting for sussing out like how you work together and deal with, like I think, and it's funny that I was saying that, forgetting that we actually already have that in our lives, which is interesting, and how like that's actually become a big part of our quality time. Is being competitive about something,
that's true.
which is really interesting.
But we're not competitive against each other. We're always on the same team. Yeah.
Always. I would get exactly zero joy from beating you. And there is one part of the game which we've played a few times where I'll actually let you kill me to make sure that you get like your bounties and stuff like that. And that actually makes me happy.
Yeah.
But killing you in a game would bring me no joy.
I still though, like, because you get positioned. So even though we're in the same team, we do then have a position within that team. And like I do find joy though when I get to number one I beat you.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
That, and I totally get that.
And because you're sweet about it, it makes me like proud that I got to number one. Otherwise, I feel really
interesting.
Guilty.
So this is really interesting because I want to beat you.
Yeah.
Like on our team, right? Like I want to be at the top, and I feel absolutely fantastic when I'm at the top.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I love it like when you crush, and while I'm like crestfallen that I have not done better, I'm so stoked for you because you performed and really killed it and crushed it. That is such an interesting thing that I really force myself to feed into, to be actively proud, to vocalize my pride to you when you do well. But at the same time, when I crush, like I'm gonna own it. Like I crushed it, like I'm so stoked to have won. And when people can get into that zone, I think that's really important. And the last thing you can't imagine how gross I would find it if you felt you had to lose to me. Like, oh, that's so emotionally weak when somebody can't like tolerate that. And look, I can say that as somebody who used to be like that, and I've talked about this ad nauseum. I actually thought you would only find me sexy if I could beat you at everything. And get to the physics of human psychology. No one wants to lose at everything. Nobody ever. So that just didn't make sense.
But someone also wants to feel like you have someone that is championing you so much that they want to see you win. And you talk about that a lot, right? Like with the team here, with any of your friends, like you just want to see people win. And that was really powerful for me to see. And you do it all the time with me, but for whatever reason, the Heroic podcast was really a big thing for me. Because I don't know, like you took it to a new level in making me feel like you were my biggest fan, and you would tell everyone that you would meet, and you were so supportive and so encouraging. And then on the day of our release, like it was about like, I'm so proud of my wife. And that was so genuine. And I felt like I had someone who wanted to see me win. And with couples, I think that's so important. Like, you had put yourself aside, like nothing, I'm not even thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about anything except I want this person to succeed. And I think if you can do that with your partner and let go of any emotions you may have, whether it's in a competition on a video game or in something, you know, in life, just putting them first and saying, I believe in you so much and I really want to see you succeed, gives a support that I don't know how to replicate other than that. Like, be your partner's biggest cheerleader. So powerful.
Super important.
I
mean, that's like the core to me of relationships. Be somebody's number one.
Yeah.
And I'm always grateful when I have an opportunity to prove you're my number one.
Yeah.
Right? And I just think that it's a quality people should nurture in themselves, to want other people to have a chance to shine. Like, you've got to want other people to have a chance to shine. And you can, by rewarding yourself and punishing yourself, you can get to the point where it's like, maybe that's not your default position. Maybe you just, like, you've got, first of all, shining is awesome. So everybody wants to shine. Winning is awesome, for sure. But you have to also train yourself to be able to, like, know this isn't my time to shine. This is their time to shine. Let them shine. And I don't know, I've never understood people that can't, like, take a back seat for a minute and let somebody else just, like, be the absolute center of the universe.
And I think that's a good test for people. Like, look at your partner, look at what is important to them and meaningful to them, and then what can you do to make them feel like you are their number one fan, right? Whether it's, like, obviously for you, you posted on social, and that was a really meaningful thing for me. You know, it was you shouting from the rooftops, which, going back to when you proposed, so he proposed to me at Alexandra Palace in London, is one of the highest points you can...
No. The highest point in London. The highest point,
except for, like, in a building. I
think
that's what I mean. But so you basically were like, I love this woman so much, I want to shout it from the rooftops. And so it has to be meaningful. You're like, hang on a minute, a place where you can see all the rooftops. So you would propose at Alexandra Palace that has this beautiful view of London. And so that metaphor really kind of came together. But what is that version for other people? Like, what is you letting that person know that you're screaming from the rooftops that you're their number one fan and you want them to succeed? I think that person would really reciprocate it, like, feel special, and I think that could be huge.
No question.
So we're pretty much out of time.
I figured.
Yeah. The one thing, though, that I wanted to... we're always talking about our relationship and things that we discover about each other and techniques and stuff like that. And this trip to London and to Cannes was so meaningful on so many different levels. But I came out of it with a couple of things that I was like, wow, I just, like, felt a different emotion or learned something new. One was you basically screaming from the rooftops of how proud you were of me and that support that I had. I was like, you know what? Obviously, I want the podcast to succeed and just crush it and have an impact and have an effect on young women out there. But even if it didn't, I was so chuffed and proud of how you were about me. So, like, that was so touching and meaningful to me.
Nice.
And then, so in fact, there's three things. So then the second thing was putting into action when we have the same goal and one person isn't necessarily fulfilling it. So I had said to you, one of the guys, I think it was actually Matt, had turned around to me and said to me, like, oh, are you doing this? It was some other social media platform. And I was like, oh my God, Matt, like, I can't even keep up right now, like, one step up at a time. Like, I've just started getting on an IG story, like, and you turned around and you said, stop fucking whining. Man up. Like, literally, he didn't even miss a beat. You just said, like, literally, as I'm, like, trying to make all these reasons of why I haven't touched, it was Twitter. I haven't even touched on that platform yet. And you literally were like, fucking man up. Stop whining. You asked for this. You wanted it. You want to create impact. So don't be lazy. Get up. And I, like, initially, I was like, it was stung for about 5 seconds. So I was like, oh my God, like, am I not doing it? And then I just stopped that train of thought, and I was like, he's absolutely right. If you started slacking off for the bigger vision of what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go, I would call you on it. And the fact that you just did it right there, right then, in front of somebody else, like, I was like, you've got to let what he's saying sting because it's true, not let it sting because he's your husband. And so I don't know if you remember, I was like, okay, respect.
The thing is, I remember that so well, and all of the credit goes to you. If it stung for 5 seconds, you didn't let it show. Like, you're absolutely right. You turned on a dime and we're like, 100%, I'm on it.
But I almost use that sting to remind myself, like, it's stinging because it's true.
Sure.
Right? It's like when somebody's like really upset over something you said, like, maybe you have to analyze why you're so upset.
Right.
Right? Like, is there some truth to it? And then you're like pushing back even harder. And my instinct was to push back.
Yeah, but you
like,
didn't.
Look,
I really respect that.
So,
really respect
and I really
that.
respect that you called me on it. So you have to make sure that your partner's willing to hear it, because
rules of engagement, right? I mean, we've talked about this 1,000 times.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you can get to that point where you just push enough, just say the right thing enough to help that person realize you're saying it because you care about them, not because you're just trying to demean them. And that's really where it came from. And that's how I felt. You're not trying to make me feel lazy. Right. You're just trying to say, like, look, if this is what you want, like, I'm holding you to the standard that you want to be held in. So yeah, that
100%.
was a really cool lesson. And then I knew I was going to forget my other lesson.
The third one?
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway.
Well, then we'll tap out there.
Okay.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great episode. I really enjoyed this one. Hope you guys did as well. Yeah. As always, if this content is adding value to your life, please do share it. And if you haven't yet checked out the Sheroic podcast with iTunes. Lisa Bilyeu and Cassie Ho, be sure to check it out. It is amazing. You guys are going to love it.
And please follow us on our socials at @BeSheroic.
Nice.
Everywhere.
And I'll bite her eyes later, because she should have also reminded you guys to follow her at Lisa Bilyeu. So
you need to teach me. I'm not in that with them yet.
At Lisa Bilyeu. Amazing social content. She's even going to be on Twitter. It's going to be amazing. So thank you guys so much for being a part of this community. It means the world. If you haven't already subscribed here, be sure to do so. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.
Bye.